Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Lock, Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, joined as always by Trevor. And first off, before we even get into it, Merry Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
We're dropping this one on Christmas Eve. You know, we could have taken a week off. There's not a ton to talk about.
There's no weeks off.
But there's no weeks off.
There's
no
weeks off. The others are taking a week off.
Probably not. Probably everyone's dropping the podcast this week. But we like to think so.
Yeah.
But there's a few things to talk about. It might be a shorter episode here, which some of you might hear that and be like, actually, who would hear that and cheer? Because you're listening to a podcast. Yeah. So never mind. We're not sitting someone in a corner like, you have to listen to this or else, buddy. It probably is going to be a shorter episode, though. But I think one of the bigger talking points for a number of reasons over this past week or so has been that Austin Hannum has announced he's leaving Discraft. Is it a massive talking point? To be honest with you, no. I don't think so.
Not by itself.
No. I don't really think it's a huge one. There's some other sponsorship moves that we'll talk about. I'll go back to the Ulti World.
The fact that he announced it as a hot take though on Twitter.
That's pretty funny.
Pretty savage.
Yeah, hot take number 6.
Yeah.
I'm leaving Discraft.
Is that a hot take though? Because it's not a take.
Yeah, it's not really a take, it's a fact.
Yeah.
I think those are the difference. But one thing that I've seen online, it's a pretty widely held opinion from what I've been seeing between Facebook comments, Reddit comments. They think that this is directly correlated to his hot takes. That him leaving Discraft is directly correlated to his hot takes up to this point. I could see where that would be a thing.
Here's where that's wrong. Okay, though. Here's where that, like, a lot of that doesn't make sense. So if that were the case, I think, literally, correct me if I'm wrong, but like his first hot take stirred up a lot, right? Like from the very get-go.
Well, his first hot take was his first hot take the live coverage, or was his first one the drug testing?
Either one, but it stirred the pot like a lot.
Yeah.
So if that had made Discraft upset to the point of like wanting to drop him, it probably wouldn't. They wouldn't have just like dropped him right off the bat. Like, that's it, you're done. They would have given him a warning, and then he wouldn't have kept making hot takes.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing is.
So like, I don't think that has to do with it at all.
I'm pretty sure I can say this part because we obviously, I can say this part. I've heard about this going down behind the scenes before it was announced to the public. From my knowledge, this deal that's kind of going on right now was in the works before his hot take started. So that puts that rumor to rest. But it does bring up an interesting question to me, which is, do you think, and we'll talk about both of our opinions, and I think we'll probably agree, but I'll try to play devil's advocate a little bit here as well. Do you think that the hot takes overall has helped or hurt his reputation and popularity and value to a sponsor? Has it helped or hurt it?
Helped massively. I think people get the wrong idea. Like, as long as he's saying things, like, even though he said things are controversial, they're not like downright like unethical to the point where like he's saying things that are like ethically wrong and like he's being a bad person, like, right? He's just making takes about the sport. So like in that case, the whole all PR is good PR is very true, because it's not like, I'm not saying all PR is good PR if your PR is you like getting outed for some scandal or saying something just heinous, but like, it's, you know, he has people who disagree with him very strongly, but that's still like bringing attention to his name, and then there's people that agree with him. So like, whether you disagree or agree, it's, you know, more people have said the name Austin Hannum in the last month than they did in his entire career.
Yeah.
So like literally it's insane. And it hasn't taken much effort. Literally, it's just it's
been 6
opinionated,
5 really.
A couple opinionated tweets that he believed in, and just some like, you know, getting in there and interacting with people and putting up a fight, you know, not just backing down and apologizing, like standing up for what he believes should happen in disc golf and being kind of savage about it. And I've said this before, like, disc golf needs more personalities like that. I always have been a Nico fan because, he does some immature things, but like, it's interesting. It's hilarious to watch at times. And like, it's like he's out there, you know, being passionate. He's, you know, making some noise, and like, he's not just a robot. So like, I want more of that in disc golf. I'm always going to encourage it. And like, Austin Hannum tweeting things that may be like slightly controversial in disc golf isn't like nobody's paying attention to that outside of disc golf. So it's not like it's bad for our sport. Like, it's very entertaining.
Yeah. So here's something that so first off, I agree with you. I think that this, from my personal opinion, I'll try to argue the other side a little bit here as well. But my personal opinion, this has drastically helped him. And let me explain why. So at least for me, when I look at something on social media, if I'm scrolling through and I agree with a post, I say nothing. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So if I see something, I'm trying to think of one of his, I don't even know. Let's say someone, I think one of them was literally disc golf's awesome. Okay. I would guarantee you that has his least amount of engagement.
Oh yeah.
One of his hot takes, disc golf's awesome, because the amount of people scrolling by, agreeing with it, then they continue to scroll. Right. If you agreed with someone, and you can probably look at this in your own, Twitter or Instagram or wherever this is seen. If you're watching or listening or interacting with something that you agree with, you're not really commenting on it. You're not really you might like it, but that's as far as the engagement goes. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you disagree, you want to get in and defend yourself.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you get in there, you disagree with the take. Now you're going to provide your opinion. So the thing that's hard to read is, what's the majority? Is the majority the disagreeing, or is the majority the agreeing? Right. That's a hard one to read, because the agreeing is in general going to be quieter, because there's not a lot to say. What are you going to respond with? Great take, I agree.
Yeah, they might like the tweet.
Yeah, but
it's difficult to tell.
And some people won't even like the tweet. Right. But what I'm looking at is, let's even say it's 50-50. The people that absolutely hate Austin Hannum, the people that agree with his takes, this guy's popularity is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton of people out there that really don't like him right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And normally the amount of haters you have is a good indicator of how many fans you have. Because the more fans you have, the more haters you have. Right. Now, in his case, that might not fully be true, because his takes have been a little more polarizing to some of the disc golf community, especially the way he initially worded his Jomez take with the live coverage, I think caused a bigger backlash than was needed, because once he fully explained the take, I think if he would have fully explained the take in the original one, it wouldn't have been as much backlash, because what he was saying was we're not getting rid of post-produced coverage. He thinks that there's no need for there to be 8 cameras on the lead card. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make sense. We should spread those cameras out to get more cards covered. So we have the lead card only on live, and then Chase third and now fourth covered. I think a lot more people would agree with that take, but it kind of came across as, let's push out post-produced, live is it type of a take, which that is a very polarizing take. We've learned it firsthand. But I think that regardless, all those comments and all these people that are hating on Austin Hannum, I would almost argue that for every one of those, there's at least one person that agrees with them that didn't say anything.
Right.
So if you look at it that way, I agree. I think this has drastically helped his reputation.
I don't think it at this point would up his contract value.
No, it hasn't made that much move of the needle.
It makes your name relevant enough to get an offer, but you have to.
This also, I don't think this affected his current deal.
Right. It's one thing to just say things that are gonna spark a lot of interaction with your Twitter feed, but real social media value from a company comes through not even really Twitter. Typically it's typically Instagram and YouTube, and actually promoting their products. But
I kind of disagree with that, because if one thing that Brody talked about, I think he mentioned it on the podcast, but he also just talked to us in general about it, is YouTube and Instagram, really every social media platform is not for everyone. So one thing with Brody is, if he's always talked about Facebook is not his thing. Yeah. He does well with his Facebook collector group, things. But there's going to be someone that Facebook's their thing. And for me personally, Twitter's not my thing.
Twitter, but I'm saying that the Twitter disc golf following in general is not nearly as big.
It might not be as big, but
and it's also,
if you're able to engage and capitalize on it, there's enough people there to make a difference.
You can make a difference. I'm just saying I don't think that Austin Hannum, by tweeting a bunch of hot takes, which is really we say his Twitter game's improved, that's his Twitter game right now, is these hot takes. So it's not anything outside of that is really happening, which is fine. It's great. But if I'm a company, I'm not oh, this guy tweets really controversial stuff, that's going to sell us discs.
No, but I am looking at, if you go back,
I'm just looking at that as a company and saying, there is so much more untapped potential on social media, and I'm talking to all my other players about it.
See, what I'm looking at is, where does it span out to? Because obviously Twitter is Austin Hannum's thing. If you put Austin Hannum on YouTube, he could be great, he could suck. Yeah. It might be horrible. If you put, his Instagram, taking pictures and stuff, that's not people's things. People have to find their niche and go hard in it. He's not going hard on Twitter yet. He's posting here and there. If he went hard on Twitter, it expands into a bigger following everywhere else, to where you go hard on Twitter, that's going to lead to an Instagram following that you don't have to work as hard to get, because your Twitter is going to spill over. So I think everyone needs to have their core thing that they start on. His is Twitter. He's using Twitter well, because regardless of if you agree or disagree with his takes, you're reading his takes and you're responding to his takes, which is what he needs you to do. And where that, I think, adds value is it's going to overflow, but it's also going to create conversation. The heck just happened to our background screen? It's also going to create, this is my background if you're watching live, it's also going to create conversation on other platforms. So that's where it's overflowed to Reddit and to other things that, if I'm whatever company he ends up going with, or I'm looking at this and I'm reading it, I'm looking at like, okay, well now like Austin Hannum's name mentioning has, probably tripled since the beginning of 2020.
I will say, at the very least, what it does is he now has his name is now recognizable to the point where if I'm looking at a leaderboard, I see Austin Hannum's name. Oh, I know Austin Hannum. It's that, I will say, that is something that is so simple in disc golf through social media, is at the very least, you just made your name, you can make your name recognizable to where when I look down a leaderboard, I see your name like, oh yeah, I see that guy. I see him on Twitter all the time.
Yeah. Now, before we go, because I do want to talk a little bit more about social media in general, look at a few other players in a little bit broader scale. Before we get into that, I do want to argue the counter argument that this is bad for his reputation.
Okay.
And where the counter argument, I think, comes in isn't from his initial hot takes. Okay. Some people they've just said his hot takes are trash.
You think it's the replies?
I think it's the replies. Because here's my thing is his drug testing hot take.
Yeah.
Some people were against it. Some people were for it, whatever. But then if you go deep into his replies and you start reading, I think at times he's not fully thinking through how stuff's going to be coming across.
He definitely goes after people.
So like in his replies, there's no way he can get out of it. He did say that like if you need a prescription, should you really be playing disc golf on tour?
Yeah.
Horrible take. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you can't say that.
Yeah.
Even if you think it, you shouldn't be thinking that, because like I can't wrap my mind around that. B, if you do think it and you're in his position, you can't say it.
Yeah.
Like, horrible take there. Second thing he said that I think was a horrible take on that was that he thinks that weed is a bigger performance enhancing drug than steroids.
Yeah.
Another, like, what?
Sounds like something a steroid user would say.
It sounds like someone who didn't do their research would say. Because stuff like that, to me, it almost nullifies his original take.
Yeah.
It's like,
it does seem like he's a bit of an emotional arguer on Twitter.
Yeah, and you can't be.
That's trouble. I don't mind him replying to people.
No, he needs to reply.
But yeah, a lot of times they're very like pointed and like. Now I'll say this, like, I'm the type of guy like Austin Hannum, hasn't made a ton of noise in the sport, man. If he wants to go that route and just crash and burn and nobody's gonna hold him accountable for it, then like, hey, like, I'll watch it happen. I'll watch it unfold. Like, I agree, like, some of his takes are bad, and like, yeah, he's gonna develop a bad boy reputation on the path he's on right now.
Well, I think his takes alone will establish it, but there's a difference between like a general like the bad boy Pistons or whatever, right? Where like,
here we go.
If you weren't a Pistons fan, you probably hated them. It's not from my time, so I never like exist. But when you say bad boy, that's just what comes to my mind. But like, if you weren't a Pistons fan, you probably hated them. But then there's like the diehard Pistons fans that love the way they play.
Yeah.
Right. If you go too far down the bad boy route, it's gonna be hard for your fans to even be able to defend you anymore.
That's true. That's a good point.
So like, his takes alone, perfect. I'm all for whatever, because at the end of the day, it's an opinion. It's a take. If people disagree with him, that's all it is. But once he goes down the route of like, coming after people, which he hasn't come after anyone specific.
I mean, if he says the wrong thing, there are things you can say on social media that like, well, now literally you cannot have fans, or else that fan is in the wrong, because you can't cheer for that guy.
And so he hasn't fully crossed that line. I think the one that was closest was on the drug testing thing.
Skirting it.
Like, because like the prescription drug thing, like going to get a prescription, I think he's tried to explain it, and where he was coming from was more like how easy it was to get a prescription.
Right.
But that's not what he said.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, even with the Jomez take, his original tweet versus his explanations are two different things.
Yeah, he seems a little bit quick to tweet.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of
when you're tweeting controversial stuff, he's got to be able to sit there and think through, what am I saying? Mm-hmm. And Twitter's a dangerous game to play.
Very.
Because if you get into like an emotional tweeting mode, I've been there. You're gonna say something that you don't mean or comes across the wrong way, and then it's out there. And you're like, oh, shoot.
The second you hit the reply button, like, you're already in trouble.
But that's the thing is, I think he needs to be replying to his fans the way he is and his haters the way he is. But I think he needs to be making sure that he's thinking through it. He's considering the point that the people are bringing up. Mm-hmm. He's researching his counter argument to that point to make sure he's right. And if he's wrong, he's willing to admit it.
It's a tough one.
I think those are the key things, because if he doesn't do that, then yeah, these hot takes are great right now. It's getting his name made, but pretty soon he's going to make a bed that he doesn't want to lay in. Sure. And so that's where I think this counter argument holds a lot of weight, is like the hot takes for his reputation right now, they're great. They're good. It's building it. Okay. His replies and stuff could be his downfall. Mm-hmm. So if I'm him and I'm looking at this and I'm reading through stuff and I'm reading through Reddit, first off, as much as it sucks reading through comments that tear you apart, it's very important. Because a lot of times, sometimes you read stuff that literally is just like, you suck, you're trash. And you're like, okay, well, that gave me no feedback. But other times, underneath the you suck, you're trash, I hate how blah, 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 there's actually constructive feedback.
Yeah.
That stuff's important. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he's going through, because on Facebook, he's definitely taken this like savage route. Because I showed you this comment on Facebook that was hilarious. Mm-hmm. Ulti World tweeted out his article about Austin Hannum's tweeted he's leaving Discraft. Everyone in the comments are like, it's about the hot take, whatever. And he tweeted a GIF. Do you say GIF or GIF?
GIF.
Or GIF?
It's GIF.
I used to go GIF because it's just safe.
That's the weirdest thing I ever heard. That's like a robot thing to say.
Okay.
GIF, I think, is like the creator of them, like calls them that, but everybody calls them GIFs.
Yeah. So I used to always go GIF just because it's like, then you can't say I pronounce it wrong. Anyways, he tweeted a GIF of, it's like a kid holding money to his ear. It might be an adult. It doesn't matter. Someone's holding money to their ears. And he said basically like, it's pretty hard for me to hear the haters or through this new contract or something like that. Basically alluding to like, all you guys are hating, but while over here, like my contract's worth so much more now.
Yeah.
That stuff, hilarious. Love it. But, I would also like to see him engaging with his haters and be like, look, I hear your point. Here's why I disagree. I'm not seeing a ton of that.
But see, like I don't need to see ration.
I do.
I don't need to see rational replies. If you're gonna be like that guy replying savage, like I agree, stay away from replies that are like really bad and are gonna get you canceled. But like, no, you can. If you're gonna be a savage, be a savage.
You can be a savage, but I think be a savage with rational replies.
I don't think so.
I don't know about that.
I think you just sell yourself. You sell yourself to that character, and then you just go for it. If I'm Austin Hannum right now, I'm seeing the opportunity to reinvent my character on tour.
That's also true.
I'm out there making enemies.
I think he is at a...
But you better back up your game.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be ready for you.
He's at a very good point, I think, for his career. Because, as we transition into... I just want to talk about, like, 2020 in disc golf, I think has exposed how important social media is.
It's huge.
For social media, for disc golf pros. And so, I think... the obvious example of this was Brodie Smith coming into the sport. Mm-hmm. It was very controversial when he first came in, his fans versus his non-fans. He's, for the most part, backed it up with his game. We'll see how it plays out on the Pro Tour. No one really knows how that's going to work. But I think the biggest thing about social media is if you can get your following and your diehard fans on social media big enough and loud enough, it doesn't matter where you finish. You're still moving the needle for a company.
Oh, absolutely.
Which that is what is crucial in disc golf.
I mean, yeah, Brodie is the example. His Pro Tour season was cut short. I mean, he's improved a lot at disc golf, but he's still, you wouldn't call him a top 50 player on tour.
No, on the Pro Tour, he hasn't proved it.
Yeah, and his plastic flies off the
That's
shelves.
what I'm saying. Is because once you've built a name for yourself on social media, then your fan base doesn't follow you for your play anymore.
Well, they do.
To a certain degree.
But they're going to follow you regardless of your play.
Exactly. They're going to follow you for your personality,
right?
And on top of it.
Because like a lot of these examples of these disc golfers that are good at social media, even if they're not amazing disc golfers, they're really good disc golfers.
Yeah.
So like they can make entertaining disc golf content.
Exactly.
And they can influence.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is like, Brodie on the Pro Tour, I don't remember where he was finishing, but let's say it was like 60th. Brodie at 60th is, and we'll mention a few other names here too, but Brody's the most obvious one this year. Brody at 60th is selling more plastic than a random person at 10th.
He's selling more plastic than anybody in second.
Yeah.
First, for that matter, other than Paul.
And it's because of social media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so a few other names that came to my mind was Ezra Aderhold, which that is the correct way to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
We've heard it confirmed multiple
that
times.
for a while until it catches on.
Ezra Aderhold and Casey White, I think, are two very good examples. And now I think Austin Hannum, maybe. I'm not going to really use him because he's growing, but he hasn't got to that point. But my thing is, like, if you look at Ezra, Casey, and Brody, right? Those three right now. There's other guys that are doing good on social media, but those are the ones that came to my mind. Right now, they're not making lead cards. You know what I mean? I think all of them have potential to. Probably, Ezra and Casey, they're younger than Brody, so you obviously have a little bit more potential time-wise there for them to get to that top-tier player. But if I'm a company and I'm looking at them, their value goes beyond just the course. Whereas there's other players, hopefully this doesn't offend any of these names, any players I'm about to read off, but I went to the Disc Golf Pro Tour rankings. These players are all ranked, most of them are ranked higher than Casey White. They're around Ezra Aderhold. Austin Hannum was ranked pretty high up there. But here's some players with similar Pro Tour rankings to this list that I would argue are lesser known just because of Casey and Ezra's social media following. Terry Roethlisberger, Gavin Rathbun, Brian Earhart, Tim Barham, Cameron Messerschmidt, Nathan Queen, Ezra Robinson, AJ Carey, Alex Russell, and Jake Ebenheimer.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you. Most of the names on this list I've heard.
I've heard the names, but could I put a face to a lot of those names? Nope.
That's what I was about to say. Some of them I've met personally. Some of them, like Gavin, was a great AM. AJ Carey I played against in college. Stuff like that, to where those guys, if I saw them in public, I would know them. Some of the other guys on this list, we could have a lineup in front of me and you tell me to pick out Terry Roethlisberger, and no offense to him, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know. He popped off at D-Glow a year or two ago, but that's all I know him for. Mm-hmm. Because, that's not a shot at any of them. I'm just saying that's the power of social media.
Right.
Because now, if a Casey White Tour Series disc comes out with Discmania, it's going to outsell a lot of these other players. Mm-hmm. And again, one of the things that I can look at here, stats-wise, is the Earhart Tour Series zone.
Right.
Okay. Brian Earhart has a podcast. He's made it a little bit of a name for himself on social media, but nothing crazy. He also has like Bearheart merch that looks pretty sick, not gonna lie. But when it comes to a zone, I think a zone is probably one of the easiest discs to sell in the Discraft lineup.
For sure.
And yet, for some reason, the Tour Series zone was one of the slowest moving Tour Series on our site.
Yeah, it's true.
Again, that's not trying to be a shot at Brian by any way, shape, or form. I'm just listing a fact that I think that social media, if you put someone else's name on it that has a bigger social media following, that disc is moving more.
Yeah.
Regardless of if Brian's beating him week in and week out. That's the power of social media right now.
I mean, that's the case, and that's literally the case in every sport. There are players who are more popular than others, and there are players in like the major leagues of professional sports that just have like no social media, even maybe at all, or just zero presence. And they might be at the top of their game, but like people might not know them as much. Baseball is a big example of that. There are guys in baseball lineups that are hitting 300 and just tearing it up, and nobody really knows them. But then, there's other guys that might kind of be, and Jason Hayward is like a good example of a guy like that who is pretty average, like long-time player, but very big personality on social media, and everybody knows his name. It's all about recognizability.
Yeah, exactly. So here's my thing too, is social media is going to reach outside of our sport, right? Yeah. If you're winning or like coming in, like let's just say like top 10, top 5, whatever it is, if that's all you have, like James Conrad, we talked about him last week with MVP, right? He made a post on Facebook that his social media, which if you didn't hear our last week, MVP is a rumor, speculation. He hasn't even announced he's leaving Innova or if he is leaving Innova, but it's a rumor going around on Facebook. But he made a post on Facebook saying that he was going to be more active on social media, so hopefully that's true going forward. But if you're outside of disc golf or you're just coming into disc golf, you're not going to find James Conrad until you consume disc golf content and watch it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you're outside of disc golf, You know, and we have people who watch our channel that are like, I've literally never thrown a disc in my life, but this is entertaining.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm sure Ezra Aderhold, he has 20-some thousand subscribers on YouTube. I'm sure that exists for him too. So people coming into the sport, they're going to know names like Ezra. They're going to know names like Casey from Simon's vlog.
Right.
They're even going to know Simon.
That's the biggest.
Paul.
That's the biggest point is with the social media following. If you can get like your YouTube, for an example, up to a certain amount of subscribers, you're going to poach fans that are new to the sport.
Yeah.
That's a foundation has gotten a lot of that because we have a big YouTube channel. So when people first go into disc golf and they're searching disc golf, they're going to see the bigger channels first.
Yeah.
So you're going to immediately get those fans' first impression of disc golf is going to come through you, and you've just earned lifelong fans.
And that's where, like, going forward, this is what, you know, sponsorships and stuff are going to be looking at. You know what I mean? Being just a good disc golfer is no longer going to be enough to get a big time contract.
There's going to be more requirements in their contracts on social media too.
And I think that's a big thing. Is like, I think this is something that Brody kind of accelerated. Because it showed a weakness in our sport to a certain degree. That's the value of social media. And I think that's why so many people, when Brody first got into the sport, were ticked off that he got a contract because the value of social media was not quite evident yet.
Yeah.
There's still people ticked off that get freakies or selling like they are. But the fact of the matter is, that's the power of social media. As long as Brody's playing disc golf, his actual placement and play doesn't matter as much.
Right.
You know, and the same's going to go for Ezra. The same's going to go for Casey. You know what I mean? Even the same goes for bigger players like Simon and Paul.
It's like insurance on your career.
Exactly.
It's a no-brainer.
It takes pressure off because right now, if you look at the disc golfers' payouts, right? If you're relying on payouts mixtured with your performance to keep your sponsor, if you're relying on your performance, that could go away in an instant.
Yeah.
Right now, like Simon has an elbow injury and stuff like that.
I was just about to say, and he's still doing well on YouTube.
Exactly. So it gives him job security. You know what I mean? Because, and Simon has it just because of his name at this point. But if I was a newer player and I'm just getting signed, if I'm able to build that big social media following, it gives me job security to where I'm valuable. If I'm in Simon's shoes, I'm valuable to Discmania even if I don't play next year.
Right.
Because of my YouTube. That's a huge thing. And that's something that more and more people are going to look at. And if you want to look at other sports for examples of this, people might laugh at this one, but Juju on the Steelers.
Yeah.
That guy has, like, I do not watch football at all. If you gave me a wide receiver, just a random one, there is a solid chance I could not name what team he's on.
Right.
But Juju has blown up on TikTok, and that's carried over to blowing up on SportsCenter's Instagram and other Instagrams to where he's expanding beyond football.
Right.
Now, has it got him in trouble? Sure. I mean, everyone saw the TikTok of him dancing on the Bengals logo and then getting absolutely wrecked.
Yeah.
And that's hilarious. I love that. You know what I mean? But that's the type of stuff that I think is big for disc golf, because I'm a non-football fan, but I know his name and I know who he's associated with. There's going to be non-disc golf fans that, because of social media, are going to know Brody, are going to know Paul, are going to know Simon, are going to know Ezra and who they're associated with. Yeah. They'll eventually learn about the other players in the sport. And Ricky's a good one too, in social media following wise. They're going to know about them first, and then they're going to learn about other ones. And companies are going to be like that. Those players are going to be so valuable to companies, because if a player comes into the sport and they come into the sport and immediately find a Casey White through Simon's vlog, they're a Discmania fan now. Right. Even if they find out about Paul later down the road, they came into the sport and they saw Discmania, and then they found other things.
I mean, it's no secret. Every disc golfer can relate to this, I think. But like, when you first get into the sport, those pros that you first kind of see are the ones you imitate, and that's the discs you want to throw, and that's the manufacturer you're going to throw. I mean,
exactly.
That's how brand loyalty happens in disc golf. I mean, that's
right now in this age, that is happening through social media. Right. That's just the trend. Well, yeah. So I think that's something that's it's something that cannot be overlooked as the sport kind of moves forward and grows. Social media is going to be so crucial. I don't really want to speculate too much about Austin Hannum, because as far as like where he's going, because I think with our knowledge and stuff, it would be hard for us to sit here and act like we don't know. Right. So I just don't want to sit here and play that game of like, I don't know, where could he go? One person that we honestly have no clue and has recently announced they're leaving is Thomas Gilbert. Right. Announcing he's leaving Innova.
Maybe he's a Latitude guy.
I'm going to say, where do you think he's going? You feeling Latitude?
I'm going to go ahead and throw out Latitude.
I'm going to pull up the
Somebody's going to Dynamic surely by the end of this. a whole mess.
So yeah,
Jimmy Rusko's sweating right now. Like they gotta get a pro.
So I did some digging, as much digging as I could into his posts and stuff like that, trying to figure out where on earth is Thomas Gilbert going.
Yeah.
There's no hints anywhere. But now this hint that I'm about to drop, it's not really a hint. It's a big stretch. Okay. Big stretch. But if you scroll down in his comments on his post about leaving Innova, you will find a Zach Melton comment. Okay.
He's dynamic, right?
Yeah. Zach Melton comment that's about, man, I remember Thomas, the first time I played with you, you were using like a backpack, all this stuff. Like one of those, like, I played with you for a long time comment. And he ends it with a see you soon. Now, here's the big stretch. Is that...
I don't even think that's that big of a stretch.
Is the see you soon just like a can't wait to see you on tour next year? Or is the see you soon like welcome to the team, buddy?
I don't even know if it's that. That's not a huge stretch. That's something.
So simply because of that, I'm going DD.
If that's a hook, I'm biting,
There's also a ton of people in the comments that are speculating Prodigy could happen, speculating MVP could happen. I mean, there's no telling. Yeah. All we know with Thomas Gilbert is he's leaving Innova.
Sure.
Which that's one thing is there's been 3 or 4 players that have announced they're leaving Innova, but I haven't seen any announcements of people moving to Innova. We've seen Scott Withers.
Innova seems to be bleeding right now.
Where they're not bleeding is FPO. Because in my opinion, they have locked up some of they've
got a nice
the
FPO
biggest
team.
Future of FPO in Evelina Salonen, Hidden Bloomroos.
Yeah.
And I think I'm scrolling through. I think those are the 2 biggest ones. And, to be honest with you, right now, Haley King is on this list as well. I would say Haley King, Henna, and Evelina are going to be Paige's biggest competition in the coming years.
Yeah, for sure.
So for 2 of those to be on Innova, I think FPO, Innova is feeling very good about themselves.
Yeah.
But on the MPO side, they still got their bangers with Ricky, Germ, Sexton. Those guys didn't go anywhere. There's no reason to believe those guys are going anywhere. Yeah. But there is the rumor of Conrad leaving. We now have it confirmed that Thomas Gilbert's leaving. And we also have it confirmed that Scott Withers has moved from Innova to Discraft.
Right.
Any of those in and of themselves big moves? Not really, but you see these roster spots kind of like emptying out right now, and it's wondering like, is Innova about to land Ezra? Is Innova about to land? You know what I mean?
Right. Are they clearing for a reason, or are people just wanting to leave Innova?
Exactly. What's the reasoning behind this? They're clearing some quote unquote cap space, which isn't really a thing in disc golf, but it's going to be interesting. Are they setting up for a bigger signing, or is this players just leaving to leave?
If I were a company wanting to do something bold, I would just like go to the soccer model and just like I would drop like a bunch of players to free up money. I would start like a youth academy in like Finland or somewhere where there's all these really good young like talents, and I would just like raise these kids on disc golf from like the age of 8 years old, and then they're just filtered right into your team.
Yeah.
Like let's get some academies going.
Some of the other players that we haven't yet talked about that have made some moves. I don't remember if we talked about Courtney Cannon on last week's podcast. But she
Discraft, right?
Signed an extension with Discraft and was promoted to their tour team.
Yeah.
Trevor Harbolt, I know this was more recent. He moved from Discraft to DGA, which is DGA is made by Discraft, so it's kind of still in that same wheelhouse.
Next door.
Yeah. And
they're far apart.
But so I have seen him tweeting quite a bit about loving some of the new stuff. He signed a 2-year deal through 2022. Thomas Gilbert, we just talked about. Colton Montgomery signed an extension, 2-year extension. Benjamin Callaway signed an extension with Discraft and announced that this is going to be his first year fully on tour. This guy in the past doesn't have a huge name for himself, but when he's come to tour events, he's done decent. Mm-hmm. So I think that it doesn't seem like a big move for him to go on tour right now just because his name recognizability. But that could be a pretty good extension for Discraft. It's not really a risk for them. He's been with Discraft for a long, long time. But, it could be something that makes a little bit of noise out on tour the next year. Miles Seaborn and Logan Harpool both signed extensions with Dynamic Discs. Austin Hannum we talked about. And then Andrew Presnell signed a 1-year extension with Discraft as well.
Kind of just plays in Texas, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
He's good. He's real good. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't. He normally makes it out to 1 or 2 bigger events, but he never does. He never does a full tour, and that's what Benjamin Callaway, in the article where they were interviewing him about his extension and about him going on tour. He basically said like I was just a weekend warrior up to this point because I had a really good job with job security, and so like I didn't want to risk it. But after he said basically he talked to his family and stuff, and this year he's risking it. He's going for it. So.
Best of luck to you.
I personally, I love stuff like that because A player like him, sure, he probably has savings and stuff. I don't know what his job was, but he's also risking something to go on tour. Yeah. You know what I mean? So he has a chip on his shoulder.
Gracious.
Of like, this is my shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's tough.
That could amount to nothing, but it depends on how he handles pressure. If he's one of the players that cracks under pressure, he's probably not going to make much noise on tour. Yeah. But if he's one of the players that thrives under pressure, this could be I don't know if I'd put him in like the top 10, but I could see him being like a top 25 Pro Tour player, realistically. And so I think that's a name to keep an eye out on as we go into the next year, now that he's going to be fully on tour. I think it'll be an interesting one for sure. Yeah. I don't think I missed anyone that we haven't talked about on extensions and stuff. So I think we'll wrap up the social media segment unless you have something else that I forgot to bring up with it. So it's time to head into probably your favorite segment at home, Trevor's Trivia. The past few weeks I have done decent, but I haven't done great. So we're hoping to turn this around this week. What do you got for me?
You've got a good chance today.
You say that every week, and every week I fail you.
There's been a lot of talk about like nostalgic YouTube in the office lately, so I thought we would do a disc golf YouTube themed trivia today.
All right, let's do this.
I've got 4 questions for you, all a bit different, but all kind of surrounding the disc golf YouTube scene. So we'll start it off with what is the most viewed video under the search term disc golf of all time? I thought this is something you would know in your little disc golf nerd brain.
No, I have no clue. I think it's going to be a Jomez coverage.
That's correct.
And so I'm going to go with I think it's a Worlds video.
That's also correct.
I'm going to go 2015 Worlds.
2019 Worlds.
2019. Dang it.
3.8 million views. It's not even close. Yeah. The next viewed was the Brody Smith disc golf battle with like Simon and Avery.
It's probably like 500,000.
2.5.
Oh, it's a million.
Yeah. There's a few with millions.
Wow.
I think one of the European Opens from back
I remember that one.
Like
that popped off.
But yeah, this one, I mean, I think it's just this is the most recent Worlds final.
That's true.
So I think that's why.
That's true. I knew it was a Worlds because I remember seeing an article about it, but I couldn't remember what year. And for some reason, I just didn't feel like it was recent. But it was. Well.
Yeah.
Now you know.
All right, so now we're going to go into some more of the nostalgic YouTube.
Shoot, that's a lot of ad revenue for Jomez.
I know.
Frick.
Some of them.
I'm doing the CPM in my head, which that's not really public knowledge, I guess. But frick.
Yeah. So this is some of the nostalgic YouTube. I'm sure you've seen both of these videos, but two of the most nostalgic videos on YouTube. One is obviously the Shoestrings.
Legendary. If you haven't watched Shoestrings,
if you hear any of these videos that I mentioned, you haven't watched them, you need to watch them. And the other one is the Jeremy Colling USDDC Distance Showcase Ace, where he's like holding that dinosaur in his hand. So the question is, which of these videos has more views?
It's got to be the Jomez distance one.
You think?
Or not Jomez, Colling. I think it's got to be.
It is, but it's close. 65K to 73K.
Only reason is like that's more shareable than Shoestrings.
Yeah, but it was 2014. It was a while ago, and Shoestrings has been around forever.
Shoestrings was 2012, wasn't it? Or 2009?
Yeah, I guess it was. I guess it's not that much longer. It just feels like it has been. I don't know. You're right though. Say it. You're 1 for 2.
1 for 2.
All right, this one will be interesting. So this is the most popular disc golf videos seem to be in the bags. People love in the bags. So which is the most viewed in the bag of all time? It has 344,000 views. There's quite a few in the bags with over 100,000 views.
Dang. You know what? I want to say the one I remember being the most hyped up, and this could have just been because I was a Paul fanboy, was when Paul first went to Discraft. He's like first Discraft in the bag. I'm going with that.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's his 2019 in the bag. I think it's his most recent one.
Oh, it's his most recent in the bag?
Yeah.
Shoot.
I think Jomez has grown enough recently that like their most recent stuff of like popular titles is just their most viewed.
Dang.
Because I expected it to be like, what is 2016? Or
when you first went to Discraft?
Or no, 2018 was
yeah,
Discraft.
2018.
Yeah,
that's what I expected because I was like very hyped up. Like
I think this one might have been his first one because his first in the bag wasn't really his in the bag. Remember, it was like him just talking about molds he was trying.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I think this was like the first legit one.
And it was right after. It was after he won Worlds. 2019. When did he do that one?
I'm not sure. I think it was at the beginning of the year though.
That was the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So after a full season with Discraft.
Right.
Or no, that... Was he with
He was at Discraft in 2018.
So he announced it in 2017 he was leaving.
I think so.
Started 2018. Shoot, it's been that long.
Well,
no,
I'm trying to think.
Nope.
I found about it in Seco 2018 at the end of 2018.
Yeah, 2019 is his first. So that is his first in the bag with Discraft. I was right.
Yeah. Okay,
I was right.
You were right. He's right.
Yeah, take that.
He's right. We both thought it was 2018.
It was 2018 when he announced it.
I know, but we were
2019 was his first season.
You're right.
Yeah,
we're right.
Yeah, I had to dig into when did Foundation start in my head.
You got it.
And I was like, no, we didn't start in 2018.
All right, last question. This one would be kind of tough. Top 5 disc golf channels by view count.
Jomez, number 1.
No. Think about it. Think about what is considered a disc golf channel.
Oh, Brody.
Yeah.
You can't. No, that's wrong. That's 100% wrong.
If you search disc golf and then go to channels on YouTube.
But his views, no. Okay, so void that one.
Okay, fine. Then, I mean, whatever.
Well, I mean, you got to agree with me there. The reason he's the most viewed is not because of disc golf videos.
I know.
So you can't call that a disc golf channel. I mean, you can call his channel a disc golf channel.
That's what I just said, didn't I? Most viewed, or most top 5 disc golf channels.
But his views didn't come from disc golf videos, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't mention that, did I? But whatever, I'll give it to you. If you can get the next 4, I'd be impressed. So Jomez you got, so there's 3 more. After Jomez, it gets tough.
Yeah, it gets real tough. See, because like the other coverage companies, are they going to be up there because they don't put it on year-round content? But then again, neither does most people.
You got to think about how long.
Paul's going to be in there.
Sure isn't.
So then we got, I mean, Central Coast has got to be on that list
He's
somewhere.
the next one.
Okay.
2 more.
Is Smashbox on that list?
No, they're close, but not.
Spin TV could be.
They're next. Yep. 1 more.
So Jomez, Central Coast, Spin TV.
This one might be kind of tough. Been around for a while.
I mean, there's 2 ways it could go. It could go like the disc golf guy.
There it is. You got it.
Okay. I was going to say it could go disc golf guy, or it could be a super wild card like disc golf planet or something.
Yeah, disc golf guy. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. We're actually really far down on that list.
I bet we are.
Like so far. like 30 something.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
We're young. So to wrap this show up, we're going to obviously make that call after this, but since this is like a Christmas-y time episode, I want to just this doesn't really have anything to do with people at home, but I want to talk about just pose a question. What is your favorite disc golf Christmas gift you've ever gotten?
Yeah. So for me,
for
me, there isn't really necessarily like a gift that was super unique or like a basket or something like that like was crazy. But the first year, I always like from the time I got into disc golf, each year I would get like $100 worth of discs. Like that was the thing I would get. And the first year that I got into disc golf, I mean, I was so addicted, just like we all get. I was just wanting to get my hands on as many discs as I could. It's all I wanted. I would save up as much money as I could to get the next disc. I remember like specifically like mowing my grandparents' lawn and having like $11. And I'm like, I can buy a Yeti Pro AVR. I've always wanted to try it. But that's how it was for me. And then so when that first Christmas rolled around, I was like, now's my chance. I was like, I had like $100 gift from my parents allocated towards discs. And I spent hours and hours over weeks and weeks on Disc Golf Center just changing in and out which discs I was going to use, just subbing them in and out. I mean, I spent so much time trying to decide. And because at this point I wasn't brand loyal, I wanted to try a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, the Buzz, got to try the Buzz. Casey Pro AVR, heck, Ken Climo uses them. Throw them in there. Like, I could still pull up that order and it's pretty comical. But in any case, this is when I got a Shark 3. It's when the 3 models first came out. But so that first year, I got on Black Friday and my mom like actually just let me order them because she didn't want to mess it up. So I went on and I ordered all the discs and they all came in this giant box. And she even let me look in it because she wanted to make sure that they were the right ones. And I was like, I was baffled because that is not something that was going down in my house normally. So I was like, are you sure? And like, I'm just like like feeling them up, like, oh yeah, that's it, like that's right. And like I was like trying to contain my excitement. I literally like they were in my basement. I knew they were down there.
That's getting clipped.
They were in my basement, and I knew they were down there. And like I would sneak down there just to like look at them.
Yeah.
And just like touch them, be like, wow, that's what buzz feels like. Can't wait to throw it. And like I had them. I want to say they individually wrapped all the discs, or that might have been a different year, but like. Because I was like, I want to have a lot of presents, so individually wrap them. But that first year of just getting my hands on all these new discs, it was just a wonder and excitement for a sport that I have never felt for any other sport in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I was just so excited.
We have a very similar... So that wasn't going to be my answer, but my brother just sent me recently. He was going through like old Christmas pictures and found this picture.
I've got one just like
of me just holding this. I'll throw that up on the screen. And so when you're talking about that, but this order I vividly remember because this thing you'll probably be able to tell from the picture. It's got a little bit of every manufacturer you can imagine.
Yeah,
and my parents were the same way. I ordered off of Infinite, and me and my brother split the order. So my parents like gave us a limit, and they're like, you can split your order. You know, so like total, this is your limit. So Jimmy and I would like be like, okay, well like I really want to try this, and he'd be like, well, so do I. I'm like, well, let's just get one of them. You know, because then if we hate it, we don't risk having two of whatever disc. And then, you know, we can just split another one. We can just both buy one if we like it and stuff like that. And so, like, I was looking at this.
How old were you?
How old do I look here? Well, I didn't get into disc golf till after I graduated high school.
You had to be in college,
yeah.
Because for me, I was like 14.
No, I was this is like my freshman year of college, I think. Because like that's the first year I was like super into disc golf, but I was still like a kid looking at all these like I don't know, I was looking at discs. Yeah. I still get excited when I go on a site to buy a disc. Sure, yeah. But I remember my parents at that point, you know, it was a pretty standard thing of like, you know, Christmas at that point was like I tell my parents what I wanted, and then they would just be like, okay, well, you know, here's a credit card, just buy it, and then when it comes in, we'll ship it or we'll wrap it. But it was a similar thing of like I never got to look at my Christmas gifts the whole time growing up. Right. Whereas this, it was the exact same thing. My dad was like, well, can you just make sure? Because, like, it's not as simple as, you know, I want a new Xbox controller, and that comes in. My dad's like, okay, that's an Xbox controller. Because, like, he wanted to make sure the discs were right. So I remember when they came in, I got to open the box. And then I remembered where my parents put the box in their closet. So, like, you know, when I'd get, like, off work or whatever, or home from practice, you know, I would walk into my parents' like closet, and I'd pick up the PA3s and all this other stuff I had. I'd be like, man, dude, I just want to go throw this. Like, how's this going to fly? I was looking through these discs, and I was trying to remember what they were. So I know there's 3 PA3s.
I can find mine too.
I know that's an A2. That one's confusing to me. The next disc down looks like 3 Rock 3s, 2 V AVRs. They were the Disc Golf World Tour stamped V AVR.
I remember that. What even was the V AVR? Was that an AVR 3?
No.
I can't remember. I remember that
it was
existed,
weird. But I think it's a Nova. Let's see here. 5 Destroyers. What was I doing?
Yeah, I don't know what you were thinking.
That's a Leopard 3, Harp. Then as we got to the bottom, I think there's some like cranks and stuff. But yeah, that wasn't what I was gonna use because I think my all-time favorite is actually I bought it for myself as a Christmas gift like 2 years ago. Because I'll do that sometimes. I'm like, you know what? It's near Christmas. I'll spend money on something I normally wouldn't. Sure. And it was like a practice net. And I set it up. At that time, I was still living with my parents. I set it up in their basement. And man, it was so nice in the winter to be able to throw without my hand hurting, and I could just rip and rip and rip.
You have no idea how much I wanted the basket when I was young in my basement. And what I ended up doing is doing the curtain trick. You hang the curtain, kind of cinch it. I mean, so many KC Pro AVR putts were thrown into that thing. Like, it's all I did all winter. Didn't work, obviously, but
yeah. See, I took just a baseball practice net, and I taped an X in the center, and that was like my aiming point. And so I would throw forehand, backhand, hyzer, and I would just try to hit it, and then I'd like move farther and further back in the basement. Some walls were hit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Had to be.
Some grip locks happened into the weight machine and stuff, but
that's so fun.
I still have it at my house. I never really use it anymore because my basement at my house now, the ceiling's too low for it to stand up, and so I'm like, if I'm gonna go outside to throw, I'd rather just go to a field.
Right.
So, but that was my favorite. It was just a baseball practice net that I got to throw into.
Yeah, I did find my order. It's pretty fascinating because like the very first disc on here, Star Destroyer, Avery Jenkins, 2009, $16. Like here, and the very next one, 2-time Rock 3, $14. Like little did I know, I had a first run Z drone $14. Like, I just didn't even know. I didn't even know what I had.
What year was that?
This was 2014.
Oh, shoot, yeah. Well, that's okay. Wait, hold up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the year I graduated high school. I graduated in 2015. So, like, 2014 to 15. That was my senior year of high school.
Yeah, this
that's
must have been 2013 then.
I was going to say, 2014, that's a year before this Christmas that I was showing you.
This is 2013.
Oh, okay.
2014, 2013.
I was going to say, that's so weird.
Because I was 14 years old when I started playing disc golf.
So you were only 15 in 2014?
Yeah, I was born in 99.
So what year in high school were you in 2014 to 15?
That was my freshman year.
Your freshman year in high school?
Yeah.
You're that much younger than me?
I'm 2 years younger.
But how was my senior year your freshman year?
2014-15 was my freshman year in high school.
That was my senior year in high school. How on earth does that make sense?
Are you more older than me?
When did you turn 21?
February.
So you'll turn 22 in February?
Yeah.
And I'll turn 24 in May. So we're 2 years separated. Were you held back or something?
No.
Was I put in early?
Maybe.
No, I graduated high school. When I graduated high school...
because our college lined up. Because you graduated college, I graduated a year later, but I graduated in 3 years instead of 4.
So you weren't a freshman in 2014 to 15? There's
no
way.
It must have been 2013-14.
You must have been a sophomore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just an idiot.
And now we're tracking.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way that Trevor, like... Because I'm just picturing the freshman in my high school. I'm like,
14,
there's no way that was Trevor.
13-14, 14-15, 15-16. Yeah, I graduated in 17. You're right. 13-14 was my freshman year.
Yeah, okay. That sounds
We're
okay.
back.
And we're back on track. Well, it's time to see if I can stump Trevor here with the final segment. Make that call. It's a little bit different. I'm not going to paint you in a scenario here. Okay?
No.
Also...
Darn. What?
Someone commented about the make that call needing to be lined up.
With what?
The graphic. But I don't know. It looks lined up to me. No, I think she meant the C and the M. Maybe it's just the angle I'm at. Because I didn't edit it this week.
I don't see it.
Oh, well. I'll look at it closer later. Not important at all to what I'm about to do. All right. So this week's just flipping a little bit. I'm not giving you a scenario. I'm asking you to name the scenario that this applies.
Okay.
Okay. In what scenario in a PDGA tournament would you be allowed to play on top of a picnic table?
That is so difficult. Or maybe not. Okay. Ooh. I have like kind of two guesses. Because I know like there's been, I always thought there was like the rule that your lie extends up and down. So like if your disc lands on a log, but you can step inside the log and get below it, you can do that. Or if it's inside the log, you can step on top of the log.
So the rule downwards does exist. I'll give you that. The rule upward only exists if you can't get to it.
Okay. So, all right. So that's kind of along my train of thought. Because then my second part of that was that Paul had corrected me on that rule. So I think it's if your disc is in a tree, you can mark on top of the picnic table below it.
I mean, technically, possibly, yeah. But your lie would be below it, below the picnic table. So in what scenario is your lie on top of the picnic table and that's your only choice to throw from it?
Your only choice?
Well, that's the only way. You're never going to have an optional drop on the picnic table.
Well, so if it lands on it then?
No, because you could go below it.
If it lands on it?
It's an obstacle on the course. So I guess you could optionally, but in what scenario do you have to? That's your only option is to play on top. Because no one's choosing to stand on top of the picnic table.
The picnic table is solid.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's kind of it.
You can't get underneath it.
So this is actually a Q&A on the PDGA's website. And so this is their answer. How you play your next throw depends on the picnic table. If there's room for you to take your stance underneath it, even by sticking your leg underneath, that's what you have to do. If your disc is on top of the picnic table and there's room underneath, it's a lie above ground and you mark directly below it and play from there. If the disc is on top and there's no room underneath, for example, a solid picnic table, you play from on top if it is reasonable. Otherwise, the table is treated as a solid object and you mark from behind on the line of play.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, there's not many solid picnic tables.
Yeah, I've never really seen a solid picnic table, but
that's so funny that I'm glad they used such detail to explain that rule.
I just went on to like the Q&A section of this week and I read the picnic table. I'm like,
funny.
When is anyone playing on top of a picnic table?
I've never seen it. That's fine.
There you go. There's your answer.
All
right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. Be sure if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Let us know what you think. If you're here on YouTube, leave us a comment with constructive criticism, or if you just love us or hate us. We read all the comments. So whatever you do, you can do it there. Or if you're listening on any other platform, feel free to DM us on social media and leave us your feedback through that as well. We'll be back next week it'll actually be the 31st, which we'll just do kind of like a 2020 in review wrap-up show and kind of look ahead to 2021, what the podcast is going to look like, stuff like that. And appreciate all your support, so far this year. Hope you guys are able to have a safe and happy Christmas, and happy holidays with your family, friends, even if it's over Zoom. It's a weird year, but, don't know about you guys. I'm ready for 2021. Yeah. Let's wrap up 2020. We got one more week. We can do this, guys. We got this.
I had a pretty good 2020.
I did. I mean, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy. Well, okay. My personal life was good in 2020. My social life and world life, well, it's not good in 2020.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's all we got for you guys. We'll talk to you next week.